Welcome back to the Crazy Josh Cravies. I make vlogs and sketches and whatnot. And for those of you who don't know, season 34 of Doctor Who starts on August 23rd. And so because of that, I will be posting a top 10 video about Doctor Who episodes every single day until the episode premieres. And then on August 24th, you will have the review of that episode. Enough dilly-dallying though, let's start off the list with the top 10-11 Matt Smith episodes. Number 11, The Crimson Horror. This was a great episode and a great example of the type of episode that introduces the Doctor not at the beginning of the story. Sometimes it's not in the story at all, or just late in the story, and then you get the backstory to his adventure. I wasn't a fan of the last third or fourth of the episode, but all the parts before that were great. In The Crimson Horror, Vastra, Jenny, and Strax find the Doctor, who is in this red shell casing, in which all the people in the town are being turned into wax figures for being on display of the perfect citizen. Number 10, Vincent and the Doctor. Pretty much everybody has this on their list for top 10 Matt Smith, or even just top 10 Doctor Who episodes in total. This was a great episode in which the Doctor and Amy go back in time and see Vincent Van Gogh, however you want to pronounce it. And it shows the real struggles that he had, all the mental struggles and disabilities, not disabilities, but the stress and depression and everything, and the beautiful art that came out of it. It also had a great story, not the best CGI, but still all around, it was a great episode. Number 9, The Day of the Doctor. Being the first multi-Doctor story in the revived seasons, it was great. So there was the 11th Doctor, and the 10th Doctor, and the War Doctor, which we have only seen in one previous episode prior to this one, but still, it was great seeing them. I feel like they kind of wasted some opportunity with the Zygons, but other than that, it was a great episode. And we got to see the Time War too. How cool is that? Number 8, The Name of the Doctor. The Name of the Doctor was just perfection. I can't think of a single thing wrong with it. There wasn't any part of it where I was like, oh great, it's this scene, can we skip past it? No, I enjoyed the entire episode. The Doctor and Clara travel to Trenzalore, where the Doctor is buried. Well, he's not necessarily buried. They travel inside a huge version of the TARDIS in which the inside is leaking into the outside. That's why it's so big on the outside. And they see his tomb, which is just sort of a electrical light things. It's hard to explain. You have to see the episode, and you should. Number 7, The Impossible Astronaut. This was one heck of a first episode for a season. First of all, it introduced the new enemies. Well, this and the next episode kind of introduced the new enemies, the overarching plot for the entire season. It was intense. It was all around just amazing. And when it looked like the Doctor was gonna die in the beginning, in the very first episode, it was like, whoa. Number 6, The Lodger. Probably the laziest episode out of Matt Smith's run. Not because it was a bad episode, because it was a great episode. Lazy because Doctor just sort of hung around on a flat. Didn't do much. It was awesome. Yes, in no way am I putting this episode down. It was a little slow in a couple parts, but other than that, this was mysterious, hilarious, and intense. Number 5, Amy's Choice. The first thing this episode reminds me of is Inception, because you have them constantly switching back and forth from different dreams. And that's just awesome. The Doctor and the Pawns are trapped in a dream in the TARDIS and a dream in Upper Ledgeworth. Except one of them isn't a dream, and they have to figure out which one is a dream before they die from the threat in each one. Twist is at the end, though, that they were both dreams.
What a twist!
And Amy has to decide whether to kill herself and maybe get back with Rory, or to kill herself and die, because she doesn't know which. Number 4, The Power of 3. I debated making this number 3 just so it was 3 and 3. Another lazy episode of Doctor Who. It was much more mellow. For a while, not a lot of stuff really happens, and somehow they make that super interesting. The Doctor is just sort of hanging out at the Pond's house for like a year, darting back and forth doing adventures every once in a while, but still. And the part where they run off for a quick little adventure and come back, like, I think it was 7 weeks later, and it's the same day, that's just awesome. We also find out in this episode that for Amy and Rory, it has been 10 years since they joined the Doctor. Not for the Doctor and not for Earth, but 10 years for them. Number 3, The Angels Take Manhattan. This was a great Weeping Angels episode. Nowhere near Blink, but still, it was great. It was sad. I hated the part when they left. Just so you know, this is also one of my least favorite episodes because of that fact. But yes, this was Amy and Rory's last episode, unless you count Time of the Doctor for Amy, but no. Number 2, The Big Bang. which I think should have been called The Big Bang too, whatever. This episode was perfection. I cannot think of a single moment in the entire episode when I was not either enjoying myself or just on the edge of my seat. This episode does so many things correctly, and as much as I'd like the Pandorica opens, The Big Bang is a million times better. We start off seeing Amelia when she never met the Doctor, and she thinks that there are stars in the sky even though there aren't, because everyone knows there aren't stars. That's just a myth. And she ends up going to a museum where they have the Pandorica, she touches it, and Amy comes out. Meanwhile, in the past, Rory is super sad because he killed Amy, and then the Doctor just shows up with a fez on his head and a mop in his hand, and this little weird thing on his watch that makes him go back and forth somehow. We later find out it's a vortex manipulator, which is a quick little way of time traveling, way easier than a TARDIS. Way more efficient and way paradox-freer than a TARDIS. This episode just has that we're all gonna die, but let's be casual about it feel to it. I mean, it's the end of the world. They're the only people left on the entire planet. But part of the way they address it is kind of in a casual way. It's so cool. It's hilarious. It's dramatic. It's one of the best episodes. I can only think of one that couldn't beat it. That sounded like I was segueing into number one, but I actually want to talk about this episode a bit more. When I say it's chaotic, it starts out super confusing, but still easy to follow along. First of all, you don't understand why Amelia didn't see the Doctor, and then she ends up going to the Pandorica, and then Amy pops out instead of the Doctor, even though we saw the Doctor get put into the Pandorica in the Pandorica opens. And then the Doctor shows up wearing a fez and having a mop in his hand for some reason, telling Rory, you know, just showing up like, put Amy in the Pandorica, even though I'm in there, take me out, and you get really confused, and then he doesn't have the mop anymore. It's like, was he mopping the floor urgently? And then Rory goes down, gets the Doctor out with the sonic screwdriver, and they do that little sonic screwdriver zapping thing. He's like, I'll go out with this. And the Doctor's like, but yeah, then they zap the screwdrivers and like, oh, snap girl, that is the real screwdriver. And then a super intense moment when Rory decides, I'm gonna stay with Amy for 1800 years. It's a great moment. I personally would have gone with the Doctor, but seeing that kind of devotion to Rory really makes me rethink my hatred for him. Not that I hate Rory as a person, I just don't like him and Amy together, but there are some great moments with it, and this is one of them. The Doctor's saying it's useless, nothing bad is gonna happen, but you see in the little documentary that Amy and Amelia watched that if Rory hadn't been there, the Pandorica probably would have been destroyed in the war and everything. It's a great moment. And then of course you have the single failing Dalek chasing them, and then the Doctor gets the fez on, and then he gets the sticky notepads and the pamphlet, goes back in time and gives the clues to Amelia, and even gets the drink for her. And then everything looks like it's gonna be fine, and then, oh snap, the Doctor shows up and falls down the stairs, all burnt up and everything, and turns out he's gonna die in 12 minutes. Whoops. Then they find out that the sun doesn't really exist. The sun, that's not the sun, it's the TARDIS exploding. So the Doctor goes up there and saves River, who we haven't seen since the last episode, right as the TARDIS was exploding, but because of that, the TARDIS kept her on a repeating scenario mechanism to save her, so she was reliving the past a couple seconds of her life, even though she didn't know that. And then the Doctor shows up, they go down, and then Amy and River blow up the fez, which was sad. It was one of the saddest scenes in Doctor Who. And then the Dalek shows up like, what's up, girl? But I guess it'd be more like, what's up, girl? I can't do a Dalek voice. Sorry. And then they're chased by the Dalek, and then that awesome Mercy scene where it's screaming at River for mercy, and she just, bam, kills it. River's awesome. And then the Doctor goes up in the Pandorica into the TARDIS, and it explodes, and then everything reverses, and you're like, wow, that was it. And then he shows up again in the TARDIS, and then you're like, it's not over, I'm intrigued, keep going, please. The Doctor realized, and the Doctor's in the TARDIS from like a week ago when him and Amy were gonna go to, like, on a vacation somewhere. But Amy can't see him, and neither can the other Doctor, but she can sort of, kind of, ish hear him, and then he gets zapped back in time more, and then again more, until we see the Time of Angels. A great scene in the Time of Angels is when the Doctor is telling Amy that she has to trust him, she has to. And it was a great scene. Continuity error though, the Doctor wasn't wearing his jacket in that scene. And then he was. Turns out, it wasn't the Doctor, it was the future Doctor from the Big Bang. As he reverses, he's able to communicate with Amy more and more each time, and when he gets here, he goes over and he talks to Amy. And it makes a lot more sense and it's even more emotional. Kind of like after seeing River in a couple episodes, it's more emotional to see the library. And then he goes all the way back to when Amelia was waiting outside in the middle of the night for him, and he takes her in, puts her to bed. And then in the morning, Amy wakes up, and it's her wedding day, and her parents exist now. Woohoo! You got stereotypical mom and stereotypical short dad who thinks he's funny, but he's not that funny. And then you see the wedding, and then Amy knows for a fact there is somebody missing. She has no idea who. And then River walks by, and then she sees that she has the TARDIS diary as a gift, and it's like... and she remembers the Doctor, and her memory brought the Doctor back. And then there's even more episode after that. So they dance at the reception, and the Doctor and River go out and have this nice little scene where he's trying to figure out who she is, but she just will not tell him, but she hints at a couple things. And then she leaves, and then the Doctor's about to leave, and you're about to say goodbye to the Ponds. They had a great season, and then, well, bam, the Ponds show up in the TARDIS again, and then they realize it's time to say goodbye. So they go outside the TARDIS, say goodbye to the home, run off with the Doctor for more adventures. It was the best episode of Doctor Who, except for one more. And now, the #1 best episode of Matt Smith's run, The 11th Hour. As perfect as The Big Bang was, The 11th Hour beats it by that much. It's not a lot. Now, I'm not the biggest David Tennant fan, but I will admit he's a great Doctor. And it was a huge shift for everyone from David Tennant, who was the Doctor, no one else could possibly replace him, to this weird younger guy with like a quiff, except it's not really a quiff, it's that hanging over quiff. And it's like, who is this guy? What is he, like 20? He was 26, so pretty close actually. That's like me, but for Matt Smith. Peter Capaldi, I'm sure he's gonna be a great Doctor. He's gonna be anywhere near as close to my heart as Matt Smith would be, though. I mean, he was my first Doctor. But there was this huge shift because David Tennant was in like his 40s. He looked pretty young, but he was in his 40s. And then we shifted like this guy in his 20s, and not a lot of people thought he was gonna do well. Everybody thought he was gonna be like, it might be a little good, but probably not. But the 11th Hour, man. When I showed my mom and sister the 11th Hour, at the end they're kind of like, that was a good episode. They were intrigued as heck. They immediately wanted to watch the next episode, which isn't as good as the 11th Hour, sadly. The Beast Below is definitely not my favorite. I'm sorry for mentioning that, people who love the Beast Below. The first scene with Matt Smith in The End of Time was hilarious, as was Peter Capaldi's scene in Time of the Doctor. But he shows up and he's just like, okay, got legs, still got legs, that's good. Oh yeah, we're crashing. And then he spits on the floor of the TARDIS for some reason. You see him crash down, just barge into this little girl's house and like, I'm hungry, give me food. And then he realizes that Prisoner Zero is through the crack in the wall, which is still part of the story today. And then he skips forward 5 minutes, which is, oops, actually 12 years. And then him and Amy and Rory have a little adventure with Prisoner Zero, but then he saves the day in like 20 minutes, and that awesome line, "Who da man?" Yeah, I'm never saying that again. And then he gets on that awesome costume, the one I'm wearing right now. And even the bow tie, which he even says at the end, bow ties are cool, so don't diss bow ties, I guess. And the episode ends with him accidentally going ahead 2 more years. Then he grabs Amy and it's like, oh, let's go. So they get in the TARDIS and fly off for more adventures. So that was my list of my top 11 favorite Matt Smith Doctor Who episodes. Tune in tomorrow for my top 5 things I want to happen in Doctor Who's future. Anyway, I'm gonna go. I hope you had fun. I know I did. And yeah, that's about it. So until next time, I bid you all goodbye.